Barack Obama's White House to occupy Wall Street. I mean, these people hate, loathe, if you will, corporate America and Wall Street. Yet, for some reason, they seem to somewhat exclude, the dopey Occupy crowd. But they, being Democrats and Wall Street, seem to be in bed together. Again, we can move on, but I still don't get it.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing, though, Mike, is that I think the same thing. It would shock me if under President Walker, within a very short period of time, he's having talks with Wall Street, the advisors for the Federal Reserve, the
Right.
regulation guys will be coming out of Goldman Sachs or Merrill Lynch or J.P. Morgan or whatever.
Right.
It's power and money, and those are the two. I mean, Washington D.C. and Wall Street is the power and money nexus, in my opinion.
Well, that part is exactly true. I mean, I completely agree.
So,
Yeah.
so that's how I see it. Now, if the federal government comes out and says, "Okay, banks, here's the deal," we are out of the supporting, backstopping banking business. You guys make a loan. You will owe taxes on the profit generated. You will have to file bankruptcy and liquidate if you fail. There's no government money guaranteeing deposits, investments, whatever. That and make them actually sink or swim on the merits of their ability to survive as going concerns. Um, that may be the kind of thing that changes it. But until then, until we have monstrosity pieces of legislation where the government is tinkering and involved, and what you can do and what you can't, and all of that, those two worlds, Wall Street and Washington D.C., are going to be shacking up every night they can.
Well, you're right. And I mean, look, just take the FDIC, which, contrary to popular belief, is not part of the government. It's an independent agency overseen by the government. Came about as a result of the so-called not so-called, the Great Depression. Um, Man, yeah, we could do a whole show on this
All
because
right, well,
it's
let's go to the next thing on this article, because there's two other points I want to make. Number one is, then we just talked about why we don't hear about it in the press.
right,
The
right, right.
second issue is, why is it happening in the first place? So let me read. Clifton goes on to this and addresses it as well. It's two short paragraphs. It is catastrophic to be dead wrong on the biggest issue of the last 50 years, the issue of where jobs come from. Our leadership keeps thinking the answer to more economic growth and job creation is more innovation, and we continue to invest billions in it. But innovation is worthless until an entrepreneur creates a business model for it and turns that innovative idea into something customers will buy. Yet
Bingo.
current thinking tells us we're on the right track and don't need different strategies. So we will continue marching down the path of national decline, believing innovation will save us.
One need only look at, we're talking politics here, the regimes throwing in all the chips being taxpayer money on Solyndra. And, guys, I mean, listeners, Google failed green energy. And again, I'm doing quotes. That the Obama administration has thrown billions of dollars into. The government needs just to get the hell out of the way, Michael, and let the free enterprise do its thing.
Well, that's exactly what my point is when I conclude on this, is that incentives matter. Um, I have started six or seven businesses over the last dozen years or so. All of them have failed except for one is almost failing. But the reason I do that is I see what I identify as an opportunity, and I expect that the return on time and money invested will be offset by the profit that I will gain from it.
Right.
Um, and several of those businesses I started, I scrapped before we even got to market. A
Hmm.
couple of them started and failed. But the whole point of it was that I would profit at the end of the day, that I'd end up with money that would more than compensate for my time and investment and all the costs that I had to incur. The more the government is involved in creating disincentive, regulations, red tape, tax rates, all of those kinds of things, you're going to continue to see fewer and fewer and fewer people essentially take the leap to start businesses. And those same things are those items that drive businesses out of business.
So here's the flip side of the coin, and you're right. What should the government do um, to not to help, but to not put up roadblocks for startup companies to potentially succeed?
Well, you just said it, man. Stay out of the way. I mean,
Exactly.
think of all the steps that you have to take to get a business going, all the licensing and all the registration and all of that. I mean, just to hire one person, the number of things that you have to do. In fact, one of the things I did when I had hourly employees, I had monthly salaried employees, and then I
Hmm.
had commission employees.
Okay.
Uh, the number of regulations just within the state of California, the labor board, I ended up hiring an outside company that for a fixed amount of money per month made sure I did all the stuff, from the size of posters that I have to post. That the state government would dictate not only the labor law posters that I had to post,
Right.
the type of font, the size of font, how often they had to be changed, the number of times per year I had to walk my employees through their understanding of the state labor laws, the
Hmm.
documentation that I had to provide to prove that I actually did that. I mean, and that's before we ever walked out the door to try to actually sell something.
See, there you go. And like we've not even gotten to Obamacare, which if
Well,
you had 50,
exactly. And,
yeah.
another thing I had, man, in the state of California, I had my eyes steadily on the number of employees because I knew that all of those different regulations and all of those things that I was understanding and all of those costs that I incurred all changed again when I got to 25 employees.
That was a sigh. I mean, it's just
And don't even get me started on taxes then
there we
for
go.
having employees. Wait, am I supposed to? What is the withholding rate for unemployment insurance for the state of California for a weekly pay versus biweekly pay versus monthly pay? How does my workers' compensation reimbursement rate impact the withholding for unemployment insurance? Do I pay my employees withholdings weekly? Do I pay them quarterly? Do I pay them monthly? Do I do it automatically? If I don't do it automatically, which form do I use? Do I send it to the Sacramento PO box or do I send it to the Folsom PO? I mean, it's just, and again, that's before we actually ever had a financial transaction with the paying customer.
And not to mention, once you do, if you want to, dare we say the word fire an employee for whatever reason, then there's more hell to pay, isn't there?
Well, actually, you know what? Fortunately, the state of California is a right to work state.
Okay, I did
Uh,
not know that, man.
yeah,
California is a right to work state?
California is a right to work state. So,
Dude, we finally have something in common. Indiana, via Mitch Daniels, is as well. That surprises the crap out of me. How long has it been a right to work state?
you know what? I have absolutely, that's a really good question. I have no idea.
That dumbfounds me. I would have never guessed.
Yeah, and for people that don't know, right to work state has to do with unions. Also, another thing is all employment. The basic state of California employment understanding is at will. So the
Right.
only time at will employment is threatened is if you have an employment contract, and the employment contract specifies particular things that are above and beyond what an at will employment implies.
I'm still speechless that
Yeah,
that's
so I could fire a guy
no.
because I didn't like his shoes
Right.
unless I had a particular employment contract. in which case employment contracts then those became operative. So you could, if somebody you had an employment contract with you that you fired could sue you, and you could not appeal to California employment law because your employment contract, unless it specifically contradicted or violated it. You were
Right. So if in the contract, if I don't like your shoes, I can fire you.
right, or if the contract itself was null and void. Like for example, if I had a contract that a guy would work 12 hours a day without getting overtime, that would violate labor laws.
Right. And I'm being
But
facetious.
if for example, my employment contract said that I would need to give some guy 2 weeks notice or 2 weeks severance upon firing him, state of California doesn't require any kind of severance under any circumstance for any reason. But if my employment contract specified severance, then I would be obligated to pay him severance because that's what the contract said.
I still, man, I don't know if I'm going to recover because I'm surprised that happens in California.
Okay, so you've got a grab basket of 12 trillion different items that affect the employment of a person in California, and out
Hmm.
of those 12 trillion, one of them's actually okay. That would not be, back to my article, that would not be considered freedom from burdensome regulations. That would just be one burdensome regulation that the state legislatures hadn't gotten around to get their grubby hands all over.
Right.
Anyway, you look at these two graphs, folks, and it is not good
It is not good.
what's happening countrywide. Well, the other thing that this graph shows is the number of net startups since 2008. Prior to 2008, there were, well, that's what I was going back and saying. 77, there was 200,000 net startups across the country. So total startups less those that closed. Since 2008, the net startup number is negative, and the most recent U.S. Census Bureau stuff on business startup lags for 2 years. Excuse me, 3 years. So the last information they have is for the year 2011. The year 2011 across the country, there were 70,000 more businesses that closed than opened. 70,000.
That's a lot, So, I mean, if you think about, first it went back to taxes. If you go back to the beginning of the regime, what was going to happen to corporate tax rates? Then the Obamacare thing. There were a lot of people, dude, sitting on the sideline, keeping their money, thinking until this thing kind of sifts out, kind of, I know what might be before me. That might be part of it.
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you're unsure as to whether the potential profit of a business opportunity will be offset by all the frabba jabba you have to go through and jump
Right,
through,
right, right, right.
you're just going to keep earning tax-free income in a treasury bond and let your money sit there.
I mean, it even extends to existing profitable companies, right? I don't know what's going to happen to me relative to tax rates. I don't know what's going to happen to me relative to Obamacare. I'm not investing anymore. I'm not hiring any more people until this thing sorts itself the hell out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Obama's America, dude.
Yeah, it really is. And you know what? Here's the thing, man, is that honestly, I'd have to go beyond that because you look at some of these numbers and a lot of this stuff. I mean, it's the trend line started to change in 2005.
Okay.
So it's not just Obama's America. It's to a certain extent, dude, it's Washington, D.C.'s America.
I'm down with that as well.
Yeah, there's it's not just God, we get Obama out and everything's going to be sunny and roses. Anyway, folks, we are just about out of time. You've been listening to The Right Mics with Mike Miller and Michael Hausum. Hold on through the break. Afterwards, call us back, 412-567-6879. We'd be happy to take your phone calls. Obviously, Mike and I have, I believe at last count, 472 other things to talk about in 30 minutes.
A progressive woman once told me that if she was my wife, she'd